This is Nightline, and I'm Muhammed Ahmad Hamdan, news making the headlines. Formula for special grant to Sarawak and Sabah being finalised. And chicken egg supply to return to normal from this month. Good morning. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa bin Shah and Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Hajah Azizah Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria on Saturday extended greetings to Malaysians celebrating Chinese New Year. The King and Queen hoped that the blessings of the New Year would bring joy, prosperity, well-being and long-lasting health to those celebrating. In a post on Istana Negara's official Facebook page, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong and Raja Permaisuri Agong also expressed the hope that this festive celebration will further strengthen the spirit of goodwill, unity and tolerance among the various communities in the country. The formula for the special annual grant to Sarawak and Sabah under Article 112D of the Federal Constitution is still being finalised. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof said the opinions of all parties would be taken into account in determining the formula, including the views of Sarawak Premier Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg.
Di Sarawak, Premier mengatakan bahawa formulanya ialah kalau negara kita dalam ekonominya baik, kedudukan kewangan baik, maka ianya lebihlah. Kalau Premier mengatakan bahawa kalau senang sama-sama senang, susah sama-sama susah. Jadi itu prinsip yang kita Sarawak perjuangkan.
He said that although the formula has not been finalised, the principles and mechanisms are currently in place. He said this to reporters after handing over donations to the Tionghoa community in Sungai Tengah, Kuching on Saturday. On Friday, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the federal government had agreed to increase the special grant to Sarawak as provided for in Article 112D of the Federal Constitution to 300 million ringgit. Datuk Seri Anwar said the amount was only for the initial stage before a specific formula was announced by the federal and Sarawak governments. The Prime Minister had said the provision of the grant was decided by previous leaders who saw Sabah and Sarawak as lagging behind the peninsula during the formation of Malaysia. In other news, Datuk Seri Fadilah said border posts and the Immigration, Customs, Quarantine and Security ICQS complexes along the Malaysia-Indonesia border will be improved with upgraded facilities and roads as the construction of Nusantara has intensified. He said this was one of the topics covered at Friday's MA63 Implementation Action Council meeting, which was chaired by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. According to him, areas along the border posts and ICQ complexes, including the roads, would be upgraded and developed as Kalimantan is built into Indonesia's new capital city. This, he said, considering ICQS complexes in Malaysia's neighbouring country have been completed and equipped with convenient facilities.
Tapi Premier juga telah menyuarakan untuk melihat tebeduk. Sebab tebeduk juga perlu dipertingkatkan CIQ-nya sebab Indonesia dah siap. Jadi jalan berhubungi dari Tebeduk ke Serian perlu juga dinaik taraf. Jadi ini salah satu fokus yang saya akan bawa sebab saya juga dipertanggungjawabkan untuk menyelaras pembangunan fizikal untuk Sabah dan Sarawak.
Datuk Seri Fadilah, who is also the Minister of Plantation and Commodities, also noted that the physical development in Sarawak and Sabah falls under his purview and will be reviewed with Works Minister Datuk Seri Alexander Nantalinggi and Minister of Rural and Regional Development Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi. Considering the priorities of Sabah and Sarawak with respect to what will be done this year and beyond, he noted that adjustments will be made to the initial amount of 1 billion ringgit that has been declared. He added that border posts will also get an upgrade, including stronger security features, increasing the frequency of patrolling activities, as well as upgrading the assets of military and police personnel at the posts. The supply of chicken and eggs will return to normal and will be sufficient for the local market starting this month. The Agriculture and Food Security Ministry said the matter was assured by a group representing livestock farmers during a meeting with the ministry recently. In a statement, the ministry said the Federation of Livestock Farmers Associations of Malaysia, FLFAM, had given the assurance during a meeting between Minister Muhammad Sabu and FLFAM President Tan Chi Hee on January 19th. The meeting was also attended by Ministry Secretary-General Dato' Lokman Hakim Ali, senior ministry officials and FLFAM representatives. The aim of the meeting was to discuss the FLFAM memorandum in relation to issues affecting the sustainability and competitiveness of the poultry industry, in particular chickens and eggs. It said among the issues raised were price controls, which are causing losses to farmers in the long term as production costs continue to rise. Other issues include the need to increase productivity through closed farming systems, cash flow issues for farmers, projection of chicken and egg supply, and production costs. The ministry added it would continue to engage with industry players to ensure that the chicken and egg industry remains sustainable, to ensure that there is always sufficient food to meet the people's needs. The ministry said FLFAM had also expressed its appreciation to the government for its support in finding a solution to solve problems faced by both industry players and consumers. In other news, Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli has denounced the attitude of certain restaurant and food stall operators who still refuse to lower their prices despite the falling cost of raw ingredients. He said it was vital for these businesses to cooperate in bringing down their prices in line with those of the ingredients in order to improve the people's spending power and ease their financial burden. He said anger may arise among consumers when they see that the prices charged by restaurants and other food outlets remain high, despite the prices of raw ingredients declining and electricity rates maintained. He said the increasing prices include food items prepared by restaurants and stalls, as well as takeaway food. Rafizi said consumers should also be more proactive in response to changes in the prices of goods by avoiding restaurants and other food outlets that offer food and beverages at unreasonable prices. He added that reacting faster to price changes is the best way to influence what retailers do, particularly restaurants. Now, the Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Ministry will set up a special task force to look into people's complaints regarding the touch-and-go TNG service. Its Minister Dato' Seri Salahuddin Ayub said the special task force to be formed soon will be led by the Ministry Secretary-General, and the TNG representative will submit reports next week. Dato' Sri Salahuddin said the team had to be set up due to the rising complaints from consumers about TNG service, especially during the Chinese New Year celebration week. He noted that his ministry has called for the relevant bodies to conduct a study and the management of TNG to respond to the complaints and grievances from the public.
Kalau boleh satu bedah siasat secara menyeluruh supaya isu ini tidak akan berulang lagi pada masa akan datang, dan oleh kerana syarikat adalah syarikat yang bertaraf monopoli, jadi sebarang kesulitan dan juga rungutan rakyat itu saya akan perincikan.
Dato' Sri Salahuddin stressed that stern action would be taken against the company if it fails to fulfill its responsibility to resolve problems related to the service. He noted that the complaints were related to TNG Visa prepaid cards, difficulties in obtaining TNG cards, radio frequency identification RFID problems, and unanswered hotlines. Moving on, the Malaysian Meteorological Department, Met Malaysia, has issued a weather warning of continuous rain for several parts of the country from January 22nd to 25th. The warning involves Kelantan, Terengganu, Pahang, Johor, Sarawak and Sabah. Met Malaysia in a statement said continuous rain is expected to occur in Kelantan and a few areas in Terengganu, namely Besut, Setiu, Kuala Nerus, Hulu Terengganu, Kuala Terengganu and Marang until January 22nd. Continuous rain is also expected to occur in Dungun and Kemaman in Terengganu, as well as Kuantan, Pekan and Rompin in Pahang. The same alert has also been issued for Segamat, Kluang, Mersing, Kulai, Kota Tinggi and Johor Bahru in Johor until January 25th. The area is expected to experience continuous rain from January 22nd to 25th in Sarawak, Kuching, Serian, Samarahan, Betong, Sarike, Sibu, Muka, Bintulu and Miri. While in Sabah, the alert involves Tambunan, Tawau, Lahad Datu, Sandakan, Telupit, Kinabatangan, Beluran and Kudat. Now, PKR has begun unofficial talks with UMNO and Barisan Nasional about a possible cooperation in the state polls. PKR Deputy President Rafizi Ramli, however, said that formal discussions among Pakatan Harapan leaders, as well as with BN and UMNO leaders, had yet to begin. Rafizi said the party had engaged in informal meetings and discussions with BN and UMNO leaders in Kelantan, Terengganu and Kedah. He said the discussions were mainly a familiarization process between the leadership of the two parties and did not involve any decisions or principles regarding the state elections.
Di Selangor pun saya tahu Menteri Besar Sri Amiruddin ada berbincang secara tidak rasmi dengan pengurusi UMNO Selangor. Di Terengganu pun saya tahu saudara Nik pun memang dah jumpa dengan Datuk Ahmad Said semualah. Tapi yang rasmi yang kita harap dapat menetapkan parameters dan prinsip itu belum berlaku lagi.
The Economy Minister said this to reporters after officiating the Terengganu PKR election convention at the Islamic Civilization Park in Kuala Terengganu on Saturday. He said the decision on state elections, including seat distribution and the use of logos, will be formally discussed by the leaders of both parties at the central level, and that the outcome will be used as a guide to face the state elections. During the 15th general election, 6 states decided not to dissolve their legislative assemblies, namely Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, Selangor, Negeri Sembilan and Pulau Pinang. The term for the legislative assemblies of all the states involved is expected to end between June and August this year. UMNO Secretary-General Datuk Seri Ahmad Maslan will meet the Registrar of Societies ROS soon in order to clear the air about the no-contest motion for the party's top 2 posts that was passed at the UMNO General Assembly last weekend. He said he will be accompanied by the party's lawyers in the meeting to explain how the procedures for proposing and tabling that controversial motion were carried out in accordance with UMNO's constitution. Datuk Seri Ahmad Maslan said Rule 2.1 of the UMNO Assembly stipulates that if any problem arises during the Assembly, the permanent chairman's decision on it is final. It said the provision is to ensure the Assembly is run in an orderly manner without restricting the delegates. He was responding to a complaint lodged with the ROS by 2 UMNO members on Friday. The duo had claimed that the tabling of the no-contest motion had breached Article 10 of the party's constitution. Datuk Seri Ahmad Maslan said the delegates were allocated time to debate the motion before it was to be voted on, and if the delegates did not agree, they could have stood up to express their disagreement. He added that more than 90% of the delegates expressed their agreement by raising their hands, adding that the voting was done according to Assembly Rule 27.5. Therefore, Datuk Seri Ahmad Maslan said this became a decision that was reached at the General Assembly and was therefore an order or party policy that all UMNO members must abide by. He, however, declined to comment on whether the action of the 2 members in complaining to the ROS was in line with the party rules. The Unity Government's move to focus on the plight of those in need, especially the B40 group, is seen as a positive move towards further assisting the Rakyat. According to the Federation of Malaysian Business Associations, FMBA, issues recently raised by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, such as the cost of living as well as getting rid of corruption, should be applauded, as it is also in line with the FMBA's fight for the country. According to FMBA Chairman Dato' Abdul Malik Abdullah, one of the long-standing issues that could be tackled within the term of the current government includes subsidy rationalisation. He said current mechanisms in place which allow for more effective segregation in order to weed out those truly in need of subsidies should be enforced, and when it comes to the matter, one size should not fit all.
And now with the government's motive and intention to focus on the B40, on the lower income group, I think that's an excellent idea, and we can always use our MyCard, since we have MyCard, or I don't know whether we could use the MySejahtera, since we have a record of all the poor people in the country and the asnaf people in the country. I think subsidies should be targeted. It's time that we start doing that.
Dato Abdul Malik said this during an interview on Money Matters which aired at 5 p.m. on TV3. During the live program on Saturday, the FMBA chairman also touched on the Labour Recalibration Programme, or RTK 2.0, which he said will have a positive impact on businesses and the nation's economy, especially since there had been a freeze on foreign workers coming into the country following the COVID-19 pandemic.
If you have 1 or 2 million people in the country who don't have papers, instead of bringing another 1 million people into the country, and now we can see that at least these people who are already here in Malaysia, we can ensure that we legalize them, we document them, we can monitor them, we can know the numbers, and they get a job. So sometimes people don't get jobs, they might start doing crimes and all that, and that have other social issues, you know.
He added that the move will also be able to help the economy to pick up again at a much quicker pace. India-bound plane from Russia diverted due to bomb threat. News from the foreign front after this short break. Onto the foreign front. In Thailand, at least 3 people were killed in a jungle shootout between government forces and rebels in the country's southern province. Thai authorities on Saturday stated police and soldiers trekked up a mountain in Narathiwat province on Friday, where they encountered an armed group that began shooting. It was understood that the rebels started to shoot at the police, forcing the authorities to retaliate. None of police or troops were killed in the operation. A low-level conflict has simmered in the country's southernmost provinces since 2004, killing more than 7,000 people as rebels in the region battle for greater autonomy from the state. A flight operated by Russian airline Azur Air, bound for Goa in India, was diverted to Uzbekistan after receiving a report of an explosive device on board. The flight, which departed from Russia's Perm International Airport, was scheduled to land in Goa at 4:15 a.m. local time on Saturday. The aircraft, however, diverted to Uzbekistan before it entered Indian airspace due to a bomb threat received by email by the Dabolim Airport director in Goa. The latest incident follows a similar hoax bomb threat made on January 10th Moscow-Goa Azur air flight, which made an emergency landing in Gujarat's Jamnagar Indian Air Force Base. Over in the US, the fast-spreading Omicron XBB.1.5 is estimated to make up nearly half of the nation's COVID-19 cases, putting it on track to become the dominant subvariant in the country. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, it is estimated to account for 49.1% of COVID-19 cases in the US in the week ended on Friday, a jump from 37.2% last week. XBB.1.5 is a combination of two other Omicron subvariants that has been rapidly gaining ground in the country, particularly in the northeast. The subvariant has overtaken the previously dominant Omicron subvariant BQ.1.1 and BQ.1, which were offshoots of BA.5. The World Organization previously had said that XBB.1.5 has been on the rise globally and identified in over 25 countries. Novak Djokovic continued to defy a hamstring injury as a straight sets victory over Grigor Dimitrov sent him into the fourth round of the Australian Open on Saturday. The title favourite admitted after needing a medical timeout and dropping a set to French qualifier Enzo Cuoco that he was concerned and a clash with 27th seed Dimitrov was a much better test of his physical condition. He took another timeout after falling to the floor at the side of the court at the end of the first set, but despite continuing to limp and looking uncomfortable at times, clinched a 7-6, 6-3, 6-4 victory. Djokovic will later meet Alex de Minaur in the second round. Earlier home favourite de Minaur cruised through to the fourth round with a straight sets win over Frenchman Benjamin Bonzi. The Aussie took just over 2 hours to advance 7-6, 6-2, 6-1. He only lost 3 games in the last 2 sets. It is the second year in a row that de Minaur has made it through to the round of 16, equaling his best ever result at a Grand Slam. Meanwhile, in the women's category, number 4 seed Caroline Garcia of France booked her place in the last 16, but had to go the distance against Germany's Laura Siegemund. from 1-1 in the opening set, Sigerman won 5 games in a row to take it in just 34 minutes, with Garcia making 16 unforced errors. However, the 2022 WTA Finals champion managed to put that shaky start behind her and level the match and took the match 1-6, 6-3 and 6-3 in 2 hours and 11 minutes. In another match, Aryna Sabalenka extended her winning streak to 7 matches as she beat Elise Mertens 6-2, 6-3 to reach the 4th round of the Australian Open on Saturday. The 5th-seeded Sabalenka hit 32 winners to beat Mertens, with whom she won the doubles title in Melbourne in 2021. Sabalenka will now play Belinda Bencic after the Swiss player reached the 4th round for the first time since 2016, beating Camila Giorgi 6-2, 7-5 on Rod Laver Arena. Coming right up, man remanded over alleged murder of senior citizen. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In Malacca, an unemployed man was remanded for 7 days until January 27th following the death of a senior citizen who was robbed in her house in Kampung Pulai Darat, Jasin on Friday. The remand order against a 20-year-old man was issued by Magistrate Zuraida Abu Bakar at the Ayer Keroh Court Complex on Saturday. The request for the remand was to enable further investigations to be carried out under the Penal Code, which provides the mandatory death sentence upon conviction. The 91-year-old victim, Misa Ahmad Amin, was found dead at her house, believed to have been murdered during the robbery. It was reported that the body of the victim was found by an Indonesian man who lives in the area. Jasin District Acting Police Chief Assistant Superintendent Muhammad Fazli Othman said following that, police managed to detain the suspect about 6 hours later near the location. He added that the suspect had 3 previous criminal records for robbery. And lastly, more than 100 vehicles were spotted and recorded driving on the emergency lane along the North-South Expressway from Johor Bahru to Putrajaya in a 4-hour period between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday. The Road Transport Department RTD said the offence was detected during the special traffic operation implemented on all highways nationwide for the Chinese New Year 2023 period. In a statement, the RTD emphasised that driving on the emergency lane is among the 7 offences that will not be compoundable but will be brought to the court. The other offences are queue jumping, overtaking on double lines, beating the red light, speeding, using a handphone while driving, and not using a seatbelt or helmet. Thus, the RTD urged the public to obey the road rules throughout this festive season to avoid congestion and causing fatal road accidents. And that wraps up this edition of Nightline. But before we go, let's take a look at visuals of people in Beijing preparing for the arrival of the Year of the Rabbit. I'm Muhammed, Ahmad Hamdan. Thank you for watching and happy Chinese New Year, Malaysia.